Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I am your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, we still remember how erratic rainfall triggered flash floods across Pakistan in 2022, when one-third of the country was inundated underwater. 33 million people affected, over 1,700 precious lives lost, over 12,000 got injured, 1.1 million homes destroyed, along with loss of agriculture, livestock, health, education and railroad infrastructure. According to the World Bank, Pakistan accumulative flood damages in 2022 and economic losses were well over $30 billion, and reconstruction needs were assessed over $16 billion. Pakistan is consistently ranked among the world's worst affected countries due to climatic changes, among top 10 nations vulnerable to climate-induced disasters. Just during this year, Pakistan witnessed worse smoke in metropolitan cities like Lahore and Karachi, late snowfall, unpredictable rainfall in May, and suffered severe heat wave in June. Every year, when monsoon season starts, threats of natural disasters like urban and riverine flooding, glacial lake outburst floods, GLOF, landslides and others become imminent. As this year's monsoon season starts and the predictions are of above normal rainfall, so what's the situation of adequate emergency response preparedness? What are the requirements and how we can adapt to the climatic changes? To talk on this very imperative issue, we have in our studios Mr. SAHIBZAD Khan. He is the Director General, Pakistan Meteorological Department. Most welcome to you, SAHIBZAD Khan. Thank you very much. And we have with us Engineer Ahmad KAMAL. He is the Chairman, Federal Flood Commission. Most welcome to you, Ahmad KAMAL sir. Thank you very much for your presence. And online joining us, Professor Dr. FAHIM KHOKHAR. He is the climate change expert. Most welcome to you, Dr. FAHIM. Thank you very much for your time as well. My first question to you, DG sir, that what would be the ultimate nature of the coming monsoon? And as Met Department Seasonal Outlook 2024 tells us, above normal rainfall from June to August. Now it's July and monsoon is kick-started. So with anticipation of flash or urban flooding in hill torrent areas or riverine flooding because of the hydrometeorological events over catchment areas. So how do you assess whole of the situation right now?
Thank you, Faisal Raza Khan. Really, it is a very important phenomena that hits Pakistan during these months, because our reservoirs filling or other recharging of the surface, that depends upon the monsoon season.
Obviously.
When the rivers flows and the snow melting phenomena occurs. So this is very important, you can say that the monsoon season. In monsoon season, we have a total rainfall that occurs in a year is about to more than 50% rain that occurs in the monsoon season, that is in Pakistan, July to September. So we have a different foras that predict this monsoon rains. First forum is the SESCOF forum that consists of the 9 countries of the Southeast Asian region. They make a meeting. This year it was held in India. So they all gathered and make a consensus statement on the monsoon on different data, that what has happened previously, what are the global phenomena. So keeping in view the situation of these phenomena, they predict the monsoon rains. So SESCOF forecast was issued in the month of the last week of the April, and it was predicted that more above normal rainfall are likely to be in Pakistan, and especially the areas they made, they indicated that on the regional basis were that much rain again are expected in Sindh and Balochistan, and then this catchment areas of the Pakistan, Kashmir and northeastern part of the Punjab, they are also likely to get more than normal rainfall. So we can say that in Balochistan and Sindh, again there is a chances of urban flooding, but keeping in view the situations of the catchment areas rain, we can predict that the river flows in our eastern river and western rivers, that will also be in the flooding situation. So at the present situations, just now I am talking, still reservoirs are likely to be filled up to 50%, Mangala and Tarbela. So water is coming from the Indus catchment areas, also water is being received in the Mangala. So they are in the good situations. Only the river on Ravi and Satluj, Indian dams are also there. So they still have the storage capacity, but only the river, that is you can say that create problem, or if the heavy spell of the rainfall occurs in the coming days, still there are chances that can the vulnerability can increase in river Chenab. Okay. So we have informed to the AHMED, KAMAL or these agencies. So the management, I think all stakeholders are ready to meet.
Definitely,
this.
your point well taken, well said. And Ahmed Kamal Sahab, as he is referring to you, so I am asking to you this question, that Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has constituted a disaster response committee to oversee the preparedness, resource allocation, early warning systems and community engagement strategies. So whether we are prepared and have adequate contingency plans to mitigate impacts of monsoon, because the first meeting held, I think so.
Bismillah ar-Rahman. Thank you very much, Faisal Raza sahab, and thank you very much to Pakistan Television Corporation for taking us on this very important issue, which is presently the is the main attention of everyone. Let me share with you that with regard to the monsoon, every year very rigorous efforts are made, and especially after 2020 onwards. All the federal as well as the provincial organization, they start preparation right from January, February every year. If to talk about my organization, we had immediately after the 2023 monsoon, we had the post monsoon conference. We had certain directions issued to the provinces and the federal land agencies. This year 4th of March, 26th of April, 10th of June and very recently on 4th of July, we have got 4 meetings of monsoon held, wherein very explicit and very detailed sort of directions issued to all the federating units, so much so that I myself have wrote DO letters to the level of the chief secretaries of the provinces with regard to the encroachments in the rivers, with regard to the sore points or the vulnerable or critical locations on the river system, so that effective flood fighting is undertaken in order to avoid any breach or any untoward situation with specifically to any you can say structure or hydraulic structures. Towards that end, we have also taken up the issue with the Provincial Irrigation Department Sindh for adequate arrangements to ensure timely repair of the 2 gates of the Sakhar barrage.
Definitely, that is very important.
Yes, and apart from that, you may recall that in 2022 there had been damages in the Kachi Canal area in the CRBC as well as in RBOD1 and RBOD3. While some restoration works have been made directly by the Planning Commission and the respective province there, we had issued directions to all of them, including to all barrages as well as to all dams, that they need to have their very concrete contingency plan prepared, so that in the event of any untoward situation, God forbid, those contingency plans should be well net and should be well implemented in all. So far we have received 58 contingency and flood fighting plans from various provincial and federal organizations. These all have also been placed on our website. We have also issued directions exclusively to Tarbela Dam Management as well as the Mangla Dam Management. I myself is around the clock, in contact with them. Mangla Flood Mitigation Committee has been put in place on the 12th of June, as well as the Tarbela Flood Management Committee has been activated on the 14th of June. Apart from that, at all the breaching sections in the provinces, we have issued them instructions that God forbid if the breaching or breaching section is for one reason or the other reason is not in a position to be activated, they should have an alternate breaching sections as well as a very importantly contingency plan to how to safeguard the population, especially in the event they are not in the event there
Means
is any
majority of the contingency plans are already there, you have already received, and measures are being taken regarding the protection of the concerned population who are living at the banks or and in those areas, and even the encroachments are going to be removed from those areas. So that is very important.
Allow me just one more point.
Yeah, definitely.
And that is in 2016, we had issued the first ever river flood management law to the provinces after getting it approved from and vetted from the Law Division Government of Pakistan.
Okay.
And for their
what's that law is actually?
River Flood Plain Management Act.
Okay.
River Flood
Plain
Management Act. That act has been enacted in KP and in Punjab. Similar to that arrangement is being made in Sindh. Balochistan, GB and AJK are falling behind. You very well mentioned the meeting taken by the Prime Minister on the 2nd of July. I was in that meeting and I indicated that, highlighted that issue to the Prime Minister, and he very kindly directed his staff and the relevant offices for the provinces to take care and to have a contingency plan in case if those river acts are not enacted, because these river acts are for the purpose of ensuring the right of way of the water in the river, so that no bad situation is there, and at the same time whatever population that is in the river khadar or in the river bed.
Because you are absolutely very right, because this river flood plain management act was necessary in this regard, that in 2022 we have witnessed lots of disaster because of the encroachment within the river bank or the right of way of the river. So you are absolutely right on that account, your point well taken. Dr. Fahim sahab, do you think that the climate change can strengthen the atmospheric circulation patterns, alter the precipitation patterns, rising global temperatures, warm ocean water, resultantly it develops more moisture and intensify rainfall? It leads actually to more unpredictable and intense events like erratic rains and all that.
Jai, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Thank you very much for having me on board this important issue. Yes, you're right. Having onset climate change, severe implications. So the monsoonal circulation is actually the best proxies to identify that the climate change impact is quite obvious in this monsoonal circulation in Pakistan, and not only in Pakistan but in the region, South Asian region as well. As mentioned by my colleagues already, that there have been severe implications, and the forecasts are already there, and we have also experienced a series of events, and especially the monsoon is from 2020 onward, it's above normal in some part of Pakistan, and in some part is normal. And but this year, as the forecast provided by SESCOF, it's most of the Pakistan, almost 90% of the Pakistan is having forecast of above normal rainfall during the monsoon spell. So this is actually driven by several factors. Climate change is actually exacerbating these factors, which could be regional scale, which could be the global scale. For instance, ENSO has a large to do with the monsoonal things, and even the climate change has also do a lot of impact on the monsoonal circulation. Yeah, and you have rightly mentioned there is a series of extreme events or events that are taking place in Pakistan. It's there are unpredicted wet spells, and then followed by the heat waves, and so on. So less snowfalls and rapid glacial melt. So all things are happening in Pakistan, and because we experience in the introduction you have rightly mentioned during, we still did not forget our 2022 monsoonal activity, which has caused huge toll on our economy and our in our socioeconomic circle as well. So we're still in the rehab phase, and there's still a lot of things to do to get back to the normal conditions. Again, these areas are still prone to these erratic rains, and there could be more challenges in the near future as well. So in a nutshell, I would say we are heading towards a new normal, and unfortunately this new normal is having more extreme events. It could be wet spells, erratic rains, or it could be dry spells in form of meteorological drought or heat waves or agriculture drought. So all are expected. So so we need to get ready for the new normals, which is actually the climate new normals.
Unfortunately, we have never took deforestation seriously, because except few years back, why we are not focusing on massive urban forestry and widespread reforestation in rural areas, because forests not only help create huge carbon sink, but also work as water absorbers, also check the flood water and further devastation. So how do you see, because that is inevitable for Pakistan, and we have to, as a nation, whole of the nation approach is needed to have afforestation or reforestation?
Absolutely, there is no question about the efficacy of this, having more forest in, rather it's urban forest or it's countryside forest, or so forest reserves. So it's reforestation or it's afforestation. So that will help out. So physically, and also it can regulate the climate. And so basically, the climate change is going to stay for decades long, at least mid of century is going to be very dramatic and erratic changes in the climatic patterns. So we need, as I mentioned before, we are heading towards the new climate normal, and this is just the beginning. So the frequency of heat wave and erratic rainfalls and all these things, there's going to be more frequent than no. If you look back just 5 to 10 years back, no such kind of frequent heat waves are they were there. So they're getting more frequent and intense. So we do expect, and yes, having more forest will have two are multifaceted benefits. So the first thing, they are like a physical front line against the disasters. Second thing, indirectly they regulate the climate patterns. They can compensate the negative impacts of climate to a certain extent. And the third thing is, yes, they are a greater carbon sink. We can have more carbon credit and can generate revenue as well. So there is no question about the efficacy of having more forest will help us. And especially when you talk about the urban forest, yes, they have even more benefits, because our urban centers, especially Karachi and Lahore and Rawalpindi and even Islamabad, they are getting more concrete infrastructure rather than the green infrastructure. So having more urban forestry means They will clean your air. The air quality issue will be reduced. The climate will be regulated. Urban heat island effect can be mitigated, and they could even manage some water levels within the urban spaces as well. So there is a list of benefits that we can get out of having urban forest or even the countryside forest.
Your point well taken. Ahmed Kamal sir, how best we prepared for coming monsoon, as it's not if the authorities lack the plans or the money needed to ensure disaster preparedness. The problem actually lies in the poor execution of these plans and the injudicious utilization of funds before and during the monsoon particularly. Will this year be any different from the past?
Let me share, there will be two answers to that. Number one, with regard to the maintenance and the upkeep of the infrastructure, and number two, with regard to the response and the preparedness presently built up for keeping people away or any displacement, avoiding any displacements or rescue and such like operations. I think that, and I always say this thing, that whatever good that you can brought in and you can place in your departments and whatever machinery and all that, in the end it is better within, outside, interagency, interdepartmental, interprovincial coordination that matters a lot. And and while
especially sometimes you have to take decisions within the field, because
yes, within the field,
indoor is something else.
Let me share with you an example. In 2022, when there was an incident of very heavy sporadic rainfall on 24th or 25th of August in the catchment areas of Safat and Kabul. At that time, our Tarbela Dam was at its maximum conservation level of 15 and 1550. And at that time, my secretary and my minister straight away wanted me to take hold of the things and to regulate the dams, both Chashma, Tarbela, in a way that there should not be any more flooding downstream, where there was already high flood passing from Tonsa downstream to Guddu because of the very heavy flows coming from the Kohe-Suleiman area. And at that time, I think that for next 48 to 72 hours remaining in office, calling the managements of the dams, PMD, almost every 5 to 10 minutes, and then taking decisions, okay, release this much of a water. And then at times when there was a certain issue of storing further water in Chashma.
It's quite hectic and
yes,
a very responsible
yes,
job, really.
And we transferred or we released water from Chashma to Chashma Jhelum link canal in order to
definitely to subside the effects and to get more weightage and time
yes.
for that, really.
So this is very important. Number two, you talked about the contingency plans and all that. What are the contingency plans? Contingency plans are based on, number one, what in our stock is, food items and non-food items, and what is the present forecast, seasonal forecast. Based on that, they say, okay, that would be the most likely scenario. And if that happens in such and such area, this will be the case with regard to the people who are going to be displaced. So whether we have got adequate tentage, adequate food items and all that, and whether we have got money still available for if the need arises. So this practice starts from the district level, and then all combined district make the province, 4 province plus GB and AJK make the federal government.
Obviously.
And then
obviously.
it is NDMA and like that.
Yeah, definitely. You're
One final point, and that is, ultimately it is the DDMAs or district disaster management authorities, which unfortunately is the weakest and the most ad hoc system at present. And we are good at federal level, we are good at the provincial
means
level.
we have to empower those district disaster management, that is very important. That is very important.
110% correct. And finally, one more point, without interfering into their given mandate, the federal departments, all inclusive, should also be given some sort of a leverage to go there and have their hand holding and by virtue of this top down and bottom up approach, much better can be achieved on ground.
Definitely, because ultimately it's the whole of the nation approach and we have to push that one. Sahibzada Khan sab, how much the persistence of that is bit technical, I have to learn a lot, I have to study a lot for that really, but how much persistence of El Nino, southern oscillation, neutral conditions and possible transition towards La Nina state, because impact overall temperatures and rainfall intensity, while what about the Indian Ocean diplo effect, because during this monsoon season we have seen earlier, but what about now?
Yes, Faisal Raza Khan Sahab, you have well mentioned about these two global phenomena. One is that at this stage we were in El Nino stage,
Yes.
but going to the normal.
Yes.
From
Slightly cooler.
Slightly cooler, slightly warmer, but now at the normal stage. Cooler is the La Nina state. Okay. Now we have entered in the state of the normal state. So you can say that the temperature over the Pacific Oceans that producing the currents to both sides, east and west,
Definitely.
they are at the normal
To get
state.
normal.
Now the other situation is the Indian Ocean dipole moment.
Yes.
That is the same as the La Nina, El Nina, means that Indian Ocean dipole moment is in positive states. Means temperature are warmer over the sea in Bay of Bengal or Arabian Sea. So when the temperature is high over this, there is more evaporation. When the land will get heated over Pakistan, India and this region, so more currents will be moving in the upper air towards these countries. So these will activate the more projection of the rain in these areas. So these phenomena are supporting. Now you were talking about the global climate change about previously with Dr. FAHIM. Really we are in a state that we are not taking care about this phenomena in Pakistan. Now on the regional basis we are in Pakistan we are noting that 0.68 degree temperature have increased above normal, but in the global situation it is 1.2. So if we see the situations of the our snow covered areas, much snow melting phenomena or ice has been reduced over these areas.
Definitely. Ice caps and the glaciers are melting.
They are melting very rapidly, but keeping in view if we see the projection for the next 40 to 50 years, if the same level of the temperature increase, then our these glaciers will melt and we have no water. So we should have to really take it very much serious. We are really reducing our green area. Our societies are expanding horizontally. They should have a vertical structure. So one side is that your infrastructure also of this nature that it produces heat.
Definitely. You are absolutely right. So when you are mentioning about the climate change and overall phenomena, so according to the climate models and Met department itself, you are representing, what are the particular regions which could possibly receive above normal rainfall and needs to be focused more during the current and the next month to avoid any kind of catastrophic situation?
Okay, let I tell you. From January to 30th June, during these 6 months, we have seen a very abnormal phenomena. January and February were totally dry months, and March, April and mid of the May, during these 2 months, we received above normal rainfall.
Yes.
So up to some extent, there was losses of the crops, but river level, or you can say that much water flows through the rivers, and even as I have studied, or I have noted, 2 MAF water was available in Mangala Dam, and 1 MAF water was more than normal seasons, you can say that that was in Tarbela. So, keeping in view that was the good season, but the situations what we have observed during this season, during these 2.5 months, you can say that March, April and May, the 27% more than normal rainfall occurred. So, the season that we cover during for the 6 months, but all the rains were recorded during the 2.5 months. Now, monsoon monsoon started from the 1st July and today is the 10th June. Up to now, overall Pakistan situation is that above normal for the 9 or 10 days, above normal rainfall have occurred in Punjab, and all the other provinces have still less than normal rainfall. Overall, if we consider it overall, Pakistan situations being 27% rainfall, 47% rainfall above normal in Punjab, if we accumulate them, then overall situation is that
means you can say that Punjab is going to be the epicenter of the
epicenter of the epicenter
above
normal rainfall.
Okay. Your point well taken. So, Ahmed Kamal sir, why we don't have the land use policy? Because that is we are raising this question in every program related to the climate change or urban forests or anything else. And do you not think that unprecedented urbanization, construction in the floodplains, as you have rightly mentioned, wetlands, waterways, drainage, or in the river bed even created disasters? Concrete structures, over irrigation increases actually the water runoff. So why we don't have the land use policy?
Thank you very much. A very important question, and let me share with you that in 2015-2016 there was an effort initiated at the level of the NDMA, and at that time this was realized that we don't have any land use policy at the country level, although there were some exercises that were being undertaken by the provinces, the urban units in the provinces and all that for the land use plans, but for very specific purposes or specific reasons. So, at that time, working on the UNISDR's work plan, it was decided to undertake a countrywide MHVRA, multi-hazard vulnerability and risk assessment exercise. And for that particular purpose, in 2012 when the Japanese government provided the first ever national disaster management plan for the country, in that plan the entire country was categorized or zoomed in different sections like low, medium, high intensity with regard to earthquake, with regard to cyclone, with regard to flash floods, riverine floods, and so many other relevant natural disasters. And based on that, a national exercise was undertaken, and guidelines for MHVRA at the national level were prepared and published. And initially, if I am not wrong, 18 to 20 districts were covered under that, but later on you might be aware of the Murray incident. Yes, and before that there was an instruction passed also for undertaking MHVRA of Murray, as well as for Karachi, as well as for some other cities having some dynamics relating to
So what happened to that exercise?
So that exercise was started. But I think that remains incomplete. There is a dire need to undertake entire country's multi-hazard.
That is going on or still suspended?
To my knowledge, it is not going on.
Okay.
And you can count whatever the districts in the country are.
But that is actually direly needed. That is inevitable.
Yeah. Let me share one more point. While this exercise was undertaken, there were certain factors or criteria set for that, so that what is the population in that area, what are the depression areas, what are the high rise areas in that, hospitals, schools, public buildings, and important installations, grid stations and all
Definitely,
that.
definitely.
So,
We have actually run short of time. So, Dr. Fahim, we are talking about, when we are talking about the global warming or the climatic changes, what about the China-India significant greenhouse gas emissions that actually contributes to global climate change, have severe implications on Pakistan as well in the form of extreme weather events, melting glaciers and altered precipitation, including monsoon patterns that affects the agriculture and impacting the water resources as well. So if you just tell me the briefly, because we have run short of time, so if you just having some brief comment on that.
Yeah, thank you for this important question. But the question shouldn't be question is not that like what who is contributing towards climate change or much. This is like the thing is how much resilient we are and how much vulnerable we are to these climate impacts, because they are going to stay for here for longer times on decadal scales. So before the Western world were contributing more, and now the India and the China is contributing more. So yeah, that's true. We are at the receiving end, and this is going to long for decades long. So the important thing is that how much vulnerable and resilient are we to these changes? These are going to be very frequent and on regular basis in the near future. So we have to enhance our resilience towards these extreme events. As Dr. Engineer Kamal has rightly mentioned, there is a need for multi-hazard assessment studies. So the study he mentioned, that was a decade, yeah, I guess it was back in 2015-16 what he mentioned. So there have been a lot of changes, and tremendous changes have been there. So we need to keep these studies as a living document. So
Dr. Fahim, when we are talking about having the resilient infrastructure and being a resilient nation on that particular account, why not to develop a mechanism to collect the rainwater in the storage tanks, recharge wells, boreholes, artificial ground recharging through water infiltration system and injection methods, urban rain gardens, rural ponds, small dams, etc. These techniques actually will help protect cities and the rural centers from flooding and help store precious water resource to use it later so that we recharge our aquifers as well beneath. So how do you see that?
Yeah, that's totally, I mean, absolutely correct. And this will help us to adapt or to become resilient to these negative impacts of climate change. So it shouldn't be like at the macro level, rather it should be at the micro level as well. So every individual should be realized and should be doing, for instance, in my own capacity, I should be doing this rainwater harvesting at my backyard. So everybody should be there. They're a very important factor. All of them you have rightly mentioned. So that should be widespread across the communities, across the country. So even that should be reflected in our policies, climate about next adaptation plan or in our climate change policy. That should be reflected in very. So now, rightly, there have been some initiative by the government. So the climate change should be mainstream in all type of developmental activities. So I guess this is the right direction.
Dr. Fahim, your point well taken. Your point well taken. SAHIBZAD Khan sahab, PDMA Gilgit Baltistan, if you just briefly tell us about, they cautioned that due to the glacial melting, some 33 lakes in the northern Pakistan are at dangerous point and could create glacial lake outburst flood. Means due to glove threats to life of 7 million people, they are at stake right now. As just days back, the Burgi Nala, that is in Skardu, witnessed the same warning of the flash floods and the landslides was also issued at that time. So how do you see that?
Due to the heat wave that have been occurring to previous months, we have also issued the warning about the glacial glove events. So they now when the monsoon season starts, you know that monsoon impacts on the GB is less. So, when the temperature will rise during these coming months in the northern part of the Pakistan, so this event can be more occurred more frequently. Still they are in the danger zone. So, you can say that this one events has occurred weeks.
And if you tell us about the early warning systems and the weather forecast systems, whether they are now we have the most modern equipment available.
Yes, why not? Why not? We have all types of the facilities. We have very good instruments, though in some instruments are very old, but their accuracy is maintained every year by calibrating them. So, we have a standard instruments. We need them their calibrations, and even if some instruments, suppose the thermometer is made by the England, we get calibrate the standard instruments from England and then compare its value with our stations level thermometers. So, the accuracy of the instruments you can judge from the these things, that we are issuing the meteorological situation to the aeroplanes at each airports.
Definitely, we are witness to that. That is very accurate from the last many
Very
years.
accurate.
Would you like to add something?
Yes.
But very brief,
Very quick.
please.
Meher Saab has stated some instruments and all that. Let me share that they are implementing a GLOF 2 project with Ministry of Climate Change, where there is a lot of early warning system for the community purposes and all that, and that all entirely is for the sake of
Ahmed Kamal,
GLOFs and all that.
very interesting discussion really, but we have run short of time. Thank you very much for your precious time here in the studios. Thank you very much, Ahmed Kamal sir. Thank you very much, SAHIBZAD Khan sir. And thank you very much, Dr. Fahim. Thank you very much for your time online. Viewers, as you have just listened to our panelists, climate change is now triggering extreme weather events even during the monsoon season. We are facing a new normal. In that whole scenario, reforestation is inevitable. We have to go through as a nation that we have to plant at least a tree every single person. As we witness that at least 0.86 degrees Celsius rise in temperature in the country, and if the same level persists, unfortunately, our glaciers are going to be melt in the next 10 to 15 years. So, 2015 we have witnessed an effective measure by National Disaster Management Authority to have a land use policy, but unfortunately that is not there right now. We have to expedite that work on that particular policy. Monsoon situation is that reservoirs are at least 50% filled, so have the capacity to sustain water after the recent rainfall, but the thing is that the season persists till September, and we have to be cautious on that. And the committee which was formed under by the Prime Minister is very much cognizant of the fact that the contingency plans must have to be ready to mitigate the impacts of the monsoon, and it is already working. 58 plans actually from the different regions already received, as our panelists suggested and said on that. River Flood Plain Management Act that was already shared with the provinces to be implemented soon. So, we have to be very hopeful that this particular monsoon season is not going to be more intense, and that is going to be normal, although Pakistan Meteorological Department has already categorized it the above normal rainfall during this season. But we have to be hopeful for the future, and for that matter we have to practically do what is necessary to protect the lives particularly in cities, or also in the riverbed areas. That is very important. So this is today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.